Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us here on KAKM for this Saturday show. Up first, there's still very high to extreme fire dangers due to the heat today and some of the gusty winds gusting up to 35 miles an hour through Delta Junction this afternoon, up to about 30 miles an hour at Glen Ellen there along the Copper River. So high to extreme fire dangers from the upper Yukon Valley southward through the mid-Tanana Valley, of course a 40-mile country, eastern Alaska Range right down across just about all of the Copper River Basin. And moving on to flood warnings, there's still a flood warning remains out through Sunday for the Dalton Highway from milepost 394 to Dead Horse. Flooding is still expected to continue for the next several days there. There's a flood advisory for the Kaparik River. That's out through Monday. And there's also a flood advisory for the Colville River near Colville Village, that one due to ice jams and snow melt. So, and also still a flood watch out here for the Porcupine River. So we're right about at the tail end here of the breakup map. Everything else pretty much open or mostly open. And so now just waiting for these three rivers up there in the North Slope to finish off the breakup process. And for the satellite imagery here, you can still see the clouds and moisture over the western part of the state, especially the southwest part today, and the fair skies, sunshine, dry conditions over the eastern interior. Had a few thunderstorms develop there just west of Dawson this afternoon, and looks like some clouds, possible isolated showers forming here over the northeastern or the eastern Alaska Range there in Copper River Basin in that zone. Also had a little bit of moisture here, mostly in the form of just clouds coming westward out of Canada over the southeast coast. A little bit of rainfall, and that picked up about 0.12 of an inch of rain from some showers earlier today, and Klawock and Ketchikan at about 0.03 of an inch down there. So a little bit of moisture over the southern areas. It's mostly clouds here to the north, and again, the sunshine, warm conditions, and then this band of moisture right through here, this what brought the 1/10 of an inch of rain to Anchorage International Airport today. And showers extended back into the Kuskokwim Valley, and then that kind of links up with another front right through here across Kodiak Island, where Kodiak picked up about 1/3 of an inch of rain on across the island there. Otherwise, Unalaska had about 0.4 of an inch. Falls Pass and King Cove here in the Alaska Peninsula had about 3/4 of an inch of rain, while Chignik picked up about 1.5 inches. So it's been a pretty wet May for the Alaska Peninsula this year, which was a lot wetter than what we saw last year, all the dry conditions a year ago over Bristol Bay and the peninsula. Quite a different story this year for 2015. A lot of clouds, drizzle, light rain here over the southeast Bering Sea. Getting a little more showery there over the Pribilofs, and rain tapering off this afternoon, starting to end, get more showery also over the Alaska Peninsula. Then another band of showers in, and then gusty winds 30 to 50 miles an hour from the west-southwest here across the Aleutians, with a lot of shower conditions there from Adak back out towards Shemya. And then again, up along the Arctic coast, some clouds up there, but not too bad. Winds out of the east gusting 25 to 35 miles per hour there on the eastern coast. Lighter winds out here to the on the west side there, and not too much in the way of moisture, but the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta picked up about 1 to 2/10 of an inch in the last 24 hours. There's a trough that brought the rain into Kenai Peninsula and Cook Inlet, and that's starting to shift up to the Susitna Valley currently, Squetna is reporting some rain, and that'll continue tonight to advance into the Susitna-Matanuska Valley areas. So it looks like periods of light rain tonight for northern Cook Inlet and Anchorage area. And again, that's sliding up to the north a little bit, but the interior remains under high fire danger. Copper River Basin, Tanana Valley, 40-mile country. Still a little breezy through the eastern Alaska Range passes. Isolated showers, possibly even a thunderstorm up there over the northeast interior. And still have these isolated showers scattered around the southeast coast, but nothing too heavy or very widespread. Should be nothing more than what you saw over the last 24 hours. And then this front, remnants of it, weakening quite a bit now, pulling away from the main low center, 986 millibar low there out over the south central Bering Sea. So some rain spreading up to Kodiak Island or continuing there. Just some showers up across the southwest interior, and then some pretty good showers here covering much of the Bering Sea, the Pribilofs down to the Alaska Peninsula, showers back to the west, breaking out a little bit there over the western and central Aleutians. And then forecast for tomorrow, not too bad here for the southeast coast. Variable clouds, still a risk of an isolated shower or two here over the eastern border areas. And also Prince William Sound, that trough, some moisture slipping into there, so a chance of showers for Prince William Sound, main low center, very weak just to the south or south of Middleton Island. Cordova has a chance of showers, and chance of showers continues into the early morning hours for northern Cook Inlet, but that should shift northward and looking more like just as the Susitna Valley. Could see some breaks here. We'll see some breaks over the Kenai Peninsula and Cook Inlet, and then some more moisture down here to the southwest with the remnants of that front. Kodiak Island up into northeast Bristol Bay, on up across the Yukon-Kuskokwim deltas to the Seward Peninsula, scattered showers there, and also scattered showers of this trough working into the west central interior. So that'll cool temperatures down a little bit from what they were today, but the east side here still forecast to get into the lower to mid 80s once again tomorrow. Out to the west, showers, gusty winds there for the Pribilofs, south winds 30 knots with showers extending back down toward the eastern Aleutians, but not too much down that way. Isolated showers along the Alaska Peninsula, and the next system spreading rain and an increase in the winds again. Back up to small craft advisories out over the western Aleutian areas. We'll see on Monday that front advances the central Aleutians with rain for Adak and Atga. Gusty winds, rain out toward Shimmy and Attu with pretty brisk westerly winds wrapping around that low center. Have a trough, the remnants of the trough that was out to the southwest for tomorrow here, right through the Kuskokwim Valley down in northeast Bristol Bay. A few scattered showers around there, and also scattered showers over the Kenai Peninsula, the Talkeetna Mountains, Matanuska, Susitna Valley, a chance of showers. Same thing for Prince William Sound, the interior now. Variable clouds with scattered showers over the White Mountains, eastern Alaska Range, isolated thunderstorms possible from there northward to the Eagle area and possibly even up to the southeastern part of the Brooks Range areas, with the southeast coast now pretty dry with just some variable clouds, low clouds and fog along the coast in the morning hours. Some of that could develop over the inland areas, but basically still holding high pressure along the over the Gulf of Alaska. Northwest winds up to 15 to 20 knots there along the coast, and a little bit of a breeze, so not much change over what you've seen for days now down there over the southeast coast. Just lose the showers. All those will be back over into Canada. Isolated thunderstorms and shower activity should be a little farther to the east than they will be tonight and tomorrow. Temperatures over the southeast coast are in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. 48 at Elfin Cove, contrast that with 71 at Juneau today. 49 at Yakutat, Cordova 51, up to 59 at Valdez. 20 degrees warmer than that at Gulkana. Those gusty south winds, temperature near 80 degrees this afternoon. 82 in Northway, 80 at Delta. Fairbanks 82 in the warm spot in the state this afternoon. 87 degrees over at Eagle. Tanana, nice 76 with 79 at Bettles, and Fort Yukon at 73. Up along the Arctic coast, Barrow had 37, 39 at Dead Horse with 43 at Atchison, and Point Lay, some south winds pushed it up to 52 degrees there. 41 at Cape Lisburne and 59 at Kotzebue. Otherwise, 66 there at Huslia with a 56 degree reading at McGrath, and that's Galena with 63. 52 at Sleepmute. Bethel had 49 degrees today, and on the Yukon Delta coastline there, 57 at St. Michael to 52 at Amonik. St. Mary's had 47, and Macoriac at 45. That same temperature observed at St. Paul, mostly in the lower to mid 40s out over the Aleutians. Alaska Peninsula, temperatures in the mid-40s on the Pacific side. Cold Bay up to 50 degrees, and Pilot Point had 52 today, with king salmon sitting at 49. Lows tonight, below freezing on the central and eastern Arctic coast, near or a little below freezing, upper 20s to lower 30s. Lower to mid-30s there on the west side, with pretty good area over the interior, staying pretty mild here. Lower to mid-50s over the central interior, up toward Fort Yukon, low 53. Fairbanks forecast low only 54 degrees, with mid to upper 40s here over south central Alaska. A little cooler over the Copper River Basin, but not that much. And lows mostly in the 40s to lower 50s over the southeast coast, and lower 40s Alaska Peninsula, Bristol Bay. Upper 30s for the Aleutians and the Bering Sea from the Pribilofs, to lower 30s for St. Lawrence Island. Highs tomorrow again back into the mid 80s here over the eastern interior. Eagle 85, otherwise from Northway 80. Fort Yukon forecast high of 80 degrees. A little cooler here both at Fairbanks and Tanana, 74 the forecast high there. At Fairbanks was 69 at Tanana, but still pretty nice. 70s here over the central interior, near 70, with mid-50s to lower 60s over south central Alaska, and in the 60s there across the southeast coast. 50s, mid-50s for Bristol Bay, upper 40s for the peninsula and the Aleutians. 43 the forecast high for St. Paul, and 38 for Savunga. For the flying weather, it looks like IFR here, mostly off the coast over the eastern Gulf of Alaska, right up to the coastline, especially in the morning hours, with some marginal VFR kind of wrapping through Dixon Entrance and then back up around from the east there, associated with that moisture that's streaming westward out of Canada. Same pattern here going on with some IFR along the east side of Kodiak Island, back up, wrapping up into Kamishak Bay with marginal VFR over southern Cook Inlet. Some of that could get into Kamishak Bay, but cuts off here mostly up into Prince William Sound, and probably over to Passage Canal and the pass there, with VFR from most of Bristol Bay down along the Bering Sea side of the peninsula and the eastern Aleutians. Big area IFR here out over the north and east part of the Bering Sea, from Nunivak Island up to St. Lawrence Island, down to just north of the Pribilofs. Marginal VFR central and western Arctic coast, VFR in the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline there, and a lot of marginal VFR out over the Bering Sea. Then another batch of IFR sliding east-northeast with that next system pushing into the western Aleutians. And for passes, Anatuvik VFR tomorrow, same forecast for Adigan, should be open. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR to start with, becoming VFR into the afternoon. And rainy, looks like probably holding marginal conditions the entire day here on the eastern entrance. Otherwise, through the pass and to the west, it'll be VFR. Windy looks VFR. Conditions could lower throughout the day there on the southern entrance, but should stay VFR. Isabel VFR, and Mentasta looking good as well. Tanita staying open. And for Portage, marginal VFR, possible IFR on the eastern entrance. And for Chilkoot and White, VFR for both of those passes. And taking a look at the freezing levels, 10,000 feet now, kind of upper level ridge here, retreating back into Canada and northward a little bit there, with the cooler air with the upper trough here over the southeast Bering Sea. So now down to 4,000 to 6,000 feet, or 4,000 to 8,000 feet here over southern Alaska. And that cold pool here over the southeast Bering Sea will kind of move to the east here over the next couple of days, 4,000 feet over the Aleutians. And taking a look at the icing threats of the occasional widespread moderate variety here into the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, possibly up over the Talkeetna Mountains. Otherwise, that next front, light to isolated moderate rime icing, Kodiak Island, northwest across Bristol Bay and the Yukon-Kuskokwim deltas there into Norton Sound. Kind of hit and miss up here over the northwest, and then with the main low center, another batch of icing here from the Pribilofs down to the eastern Aleutians to the Alaska Peninsula, and even more icing sliding northeastward into the western Aleutians with the next system. Winds aloft showing trough axis here from the main low there over the northern Bering Sea, right down across Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, so continued southeast flow, but a little farther to the east and northeast than it has been. So that's going to keep the shower threat over south central Alaska, then 60 knots back to the northwest there. And at 9,000 feet, we've got south to north winds, pretty brisk here along the west coast, 30 to 35 knots. Southeast 5 to 10 over the southeast interior, then westerlies up over the north central interior, back around to easterlies along the central and western Arctic coast at about 30 knots. Pretty light winds over the southeast coast, both at 9 and 3,000 feet there. And the strongest winds, this south to north flow here, again over the western part of the state, 20 to 35 knots there around Nunivak Island and the Yukon Delta coast, dropping back to 20 knots over Kotzebue Sound. Easterlies as high as 40 knots there on the eastern Arctic coast, but much lighter on the west side. Southwest winds here across the Aleutians into the western Bering Sea, where they increase once again. Turbulence below 8,000 feet here, moderate chop, St. Lawrence Island, the southwest coast, Nunivak Island down to the Pribilofs, also those gusty winds on the eastern Arctic coast, and that moving into the far western Aleutians. And after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
The beauty and tranquility of our rivers provide the setting for numerous outdoor activities, from fishing on a lazy afternoon to facing the thrilling challenge of whitewater rapids. However, we must never underestimate the tremendous force of moving water, which can quickly turn harmless fun into a fight for your life. The hazard of drowning can appear suddenly and in many forms. It occurs in metropolitan areas and in isolated rural locations, such as canyons, arroyos, whitewater locations, caves, and even storm drains. Some of the most popular vacation spots in the western and southwestern United States are canyons. Each year, thousands of campers, hikers, and other outdoor enthusiasts explore the narrow valleys and gorges found in canyons. However, when raging floodwaters roar through these narrow channels, these popular spots can become death traps.
First came the lawn furniture, and then came the live gas tanks off of campers and stuff, and then there came the saw logs and the wood piles, and then came the cars and the trucks and the campers, and cars had lights on them and the people in them, and the lights are still on them. There was people in them, and you couldn't even get close to this because of all the debris coming down.
There's no way to help any of them.
No way, no way. And you couldn't even hear them scream, thank God, because the roar was so bad.
A flood is an overflow of water onto normally dry land. Flooding is long-term, lasting for days or weeks. A flash flood is caused by heavy rainfall in a short period of time, generally less than 6 hours. Flash floods can develop quickly when you least expect it. They can form from intense thunderstorms at the upper end of a canyon, sometimes many miles away. Although you may be in the lower end of the canyon, enjoying sunny skies, danger could be racing toward you at that very moment. Flash floods in canyons are so localized and powerful, they carry boulders, rocks, trees, and anything else in their path. People don't just drown in these kinds of flash floods, they are also beaten to death by the moving debris. Visitors to popular spots like Zion National Park and other canyons need to be constantly aware of changing weather conditions to ensure a safe outing. To alert people of current and potential danger, the National Weather Service monitors our current river conditions and issues official flood and flash flood watches and warnings. Keep abreast of current weather conditions before entering and while visiting a canyon. An arroyo is a flat-bottomed, normally dry stream bed forming a channel, usually found in the semi-arid western United States. They can be many miles long. Most often in the summer months, warm, moist tropical air masses produce strong thunderstorms with intense rainfall. Arroyos become hazards when rain falls too quickly to be absorbed by the hardened desert ground and quickly runs through the usually dry channels. When this happens, a dry arroyo can quickly become a raging river. Some people choose to camp in the flat, dry arroyo bed. However, rainwater channeled into an arroyo can come from thunderstorms occurring miles away, leaving campers unaware they are in the direct path of a deadly wall of racing water. Vehicles are especially prone to hidden danger in areas where roads without bridges dip across these normally dry creek beds. Be especially careful when in or near an arroyo, wash, or low water crossing. Never drive through flooded roads or washes. You can lose control of your car in as little as 6 inches of water, and 2 feet of water can carry your car away. In recent years, whitewater rafting has become a popular adventure sport. Riding the swirling waters or navigating around standing waves are exciting ways to enjoy the outdoors. There are dangers associated with fast-moving water, but with a little common sense, rafters and kayakers can enjoy a safe day on the river. Swollen rivers from rain, melting snow, or scheduled dam releases can provide for exciting whitewater rides. Increased river heights produce a faster, more powerful flow. Rafters need to know current river conditions to avoid potential mishaps. Usually, it is the novice adventurer without professional guidance who gets into trouble.
Last weekend, when 3 river rafters went over the edge, sucked into water churning so furiously, it ripped off one of the rafters' life jackets.
It's the pressure, tons and tons of water pushing against a human being. The tons of water usually always win.
There's a lot of big waves. There's also the cold water, hypothermia is a big factor too.
It's good, exciting flow right now. You just gotta run it safely and you shouldn't have any problems.
Depending on weather conditions, water levels vary throughout the year, making certain times better for rafting than others. The character of a river may change depending on the height of the river and shape of the channel.
Well, light west-southwest breezes here on the west or the north coast down to the southwest-northwest winds 10 to 15 knots. Seas out here running 4 to 5 feet over the inside waters. Northwesterlies of 15 with 3-foot seas. Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, southerlies increasing to 25 knots tomorrow afternoon with seas at about 5 feet. Those will stay south but come down to about 20 knots on Monday with the lower pressure up over the Yukon. Otherwise, northerlies here for Stevens Passage. Clarence Strait northwest at about 20 with 4-foot seas, and small craft advisories here for the south coast, northwest 25 knots, central coast northwest at 20, and the north coast here west at 15 with seas the entire stretch of the way there running 7 feet. And for Prince William Sound and northern Cook Inlet, southwest wind at about 10 tomorrow with 2-foot seas. Otherwise, southeasterlies 15 to 20 knots here from the Barren Islands into Kamishak Bay. About the same here blowing across Kodiak Island, and west to southwest winds only at 10 knots for the North Gulf Coast with seas at about 4 to 5 feet. And then for Monday, not a lot of change here except the winds become southwesterly at 15 here across Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait. Very light winds here in across Kamishak Bay. The Barrens south at 10, turning southwest 10 for the western North Gulf Coast, and westerlies at 10 knots for the central coast. Light winds from the south and southwest blowing up Cook Inlet in the afternoon. Seas 2 to 3 feet. For Bristol Bay tomorrow, south winds at 15 with 7-foot seas. 25 knot southwest winds here on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. Lighter southwest winds 15 to 20 knots there on the Pacific side. And then for Monday, light variable winds over Bristol Bay. Light southwest winds there from Sitkinak over to about Chignik, and from Chignik over to, the Pacific side of the peninsula here. Right across the peninsula, southerlies of 15 with seas 4 to 7 feet. And that next system swinging those winds around to the southeast, coming up to 30 knots for the western Aleutians, southerlies 25 knots for the west central areas. Adak and Atka southwest at 20, And for the eastern Aleutians, winds southwest at 25 knots with seas running 10 to 13 feet. And then for Monday, south to southeast winds 20 to 30 knots there for the eastern Aleutians. Gale force winds here for the central Aleutians, AKwx, south 35 knots. And then southwest 35 knot gales there for the western zone with 16-foot seas. For the southwest coast here, south to southeast winds about 25 knots with 6 to 8-foot seas. About the same for St. Lawrence Island. Southerlies at 30 knots for the Pribilofs, east 30 knots for the northern Bering Sea. Not much change. Actually, they drop off and then come back up Monday afternoon to 30 knots there for the Pribilofs. Northern Bering Sea, southeast 30 knots, 15 to 20 knot winds along the southwest coast. And for St. Lawrence Island, southerlies at 20 knots with 5-foot seas. Up on the Arctic coast, for tomorrow, strongest winds will continue to be on the east side here. 25 to 30 knots, strongest over toward demarcation point. Central coast east at 20 knots, light southwest winds here for the west side, and southeast from Wales to Cape Thompson, southeast at about 15. And then for Monday, those pick up to 20 knots there. Otherwise, winds here on the range from 10 to 20 knots on the west side of the coast to easterlies 20 to 25 knots, again strongest on the extreme eastern coastline. For tonight, again, showers shifting up into the Madanuska-Susitna Valley here and then kind of extending a little bit to the northwest. Pretty hit and miss, probably more miss than hit out there to the northwest. Mild, dry evening and overnight period coming up for the eastern central interior, right down to the Copper River Basin. Those winds letting up a little bit there, increasing chance of showers there for Prince William Sound. And then that weakening front keeps some moisture in along the southwest coast. And for tomorrow, still a chance of showers, Madanuska-Susitna Valley areas. A little bit cooler over the central interior with more clouds and maybe a risk of a shower or two. And same thing over the Panhandle. Not much change from today there. Showers over the Pribilof Islands and more showers over the eastern interior on Monday.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.